Lot to pick apart there. Karine Jean-Pierre is a Democratic strategist and a former deputy campaign manager for Martin O'Malley. Chris Wilson is a former Ted Cruz campaign pollster. Thanks to both of you for joining us. Karine, let me start with you. What he said about being a sad night for Democrats last night as they sat there and cheered. It is pretty interesting that with his slogan, Make America Great Again, it does seem like he has backed Democrats into this corner of saying, what are you talking about? America's fantastic. Everything is great. And then you have people at home saying, well, I don't know if that's really true. From a strategist point of view, who's sort of winning that argument?
Look, hey, Melissa. look. The President Obama has had in the last 3 months 50+ approval rating, right? So there is something to be said about his job as President of the United States. What we saw this week was unifying the party. What we saw also last night was the optimism, what the Democrats were able to represent. Look, of course, we still have a lot of work to be done in this country, but it is not doomsday. We're not living in a sci-fi end of days type of world. And America is a great country to be in, and we need someone who's going to take us in a optimistic fashion to the future. And what the Republicans presented last week was just so scary, was so fearful, and just put fright and fear in American people.
So Chris, Karine, reflects a lot of what was said at this convention, and I'll ask you the same question, that it is interesting that Trump has sort of backed them into this corner of saying, hey, we are optimistic. Everything is great. Things are going great. The country is great. I don't know how much that resonates. Well, I guess we'll see how much it resonates with people.
I think it does resonate to a certain extent. I'll point out, I'll start with the positive. I think President Obama's speech, minus probably 4 or 5 paragraphs, could have been a speech delivered by Ronald Reagan at a Republican convention. I think you've got to give him credit for that. It was an optimistic view of America. So I agree with Karine on that. Where I disagree, though, is I think the whole attitude that exists inside the convention has kind of become a fantasy land where the Clintons have a great marriage and she was a resounding success as Secretary of State and Obamacare is working. And really, there's not many people outside of that building in Philadelphia who believe that. So they're kind of trying to have it both ways. And I think it's a challenge and it's a tightrope they've got to walk moving forward, because right now what we've got is, as Karine pointed out, President Obama has a very solid job approval, but we've also got a large majority of Americans saying the country's moving in the wrong direction. And so you've kind of got to deal with, you've got to change election, but you want to advertise Hillary Clinton as a third term of Obama. And it's interesting, my firm WPA actually did a question on a survey where we asked Democrats, what would you rather have, Hillary Clinton or Obama's third term? And a large plurality said a third term from Obama. So that's really the challenge they find themselves facing.
Karine, that's a great point, and that is a big challenge. How do you deal with that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
How do you deal with the fact that we're kind of going through this back and forth between, do you want a third term of President Obama or do you want change? And for Hillary Clinton, she sort of stands on the precipice of that. On one hand, her husband is saying that she's an agent of change. On the other hand, on the very next night, you have President Obama saying she's going to continue my term. I think people outside the arena are saying, well, which one is it? Is she change or is she more of the same?
Look, there was a lot that was done under President Obama administration, and what Hillary Clinton's going to do is going to actually continue the change that he started off, right? Expanding Social Security, increasing minimum wage. I think that's what they were talking about, that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and that's where the change comes in.
But 70% of the country thinks that we're heading in the wrong direction. So continuing the work of President Obama, Chris, as much as people feel affection for the man and that when he goes out and speaks, they, especially last night, they hear him and they're attracted to that or whatever. At the same time, 70% say, wait a second, we are heading way down the wrong track. Those two things are difficult to reconcile.
They really are, and I think it's who Obama is, and you've got to give him credit for the fact that he can have policies that are so incredibly unpopular and be a man who is very popular. And I have to say, I don't want to give advice to the Democrats here, but if they're doing what Karine's suggesting, which is trying to make this an Obama third term to continue his policies, they're going to lose. And it's almost like they're trying to lose when they do that, and that's not the way in which you should run a presidential campaign. However, if they're trying to capture Obama's popularity and his optimism that he focused on last night, I think that's different, and that's a contrast they can win with.
We got to go. Thanks to both of you. John.